with a person, or the outcome of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is paradise on the day of Qiyamah. And so we are all here today, fasted, sacrificing some of our time, our earnings, exercising different types of worship and different rituals in order to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to attain paradise. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says that one verse where Allah Azza wa Jal describes paradise and says أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Paradise has been prepared for the people of taqwa, the pious, the righteous, the God conscious. He says, سارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم. Hasten to forgiveness from your Lord. وجنة عرضها السماوات والأرض. And paradise, the width of which is the heavens and the earth. أعدت للمتقين. That has been prepared for the people of taqwa, the righteous, the pious. And we know that we are fasting in order to acquire taqwa and patience. What are the signs of taqwa? Allah doesn't say they pray tahajjud for very long in this particular context. He doesn't say they recite a lot of Quran. He says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. Those who spend in times of ease and times of difficulty. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. And those who control and tame their anger. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And those who forgive people. وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah loves the doers of good. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً. And those when having committed a sin أو ظلموا أنفسهم or wronged themselves ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم. They remember Allah and seek forgiveness for their sins. وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And who forgives sin other than Allah. وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا. They don't persist on sinning وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ knowingly. So they do not persist on and do not continue committing that same sin over and over again, and each time taking it lightly and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness just with the tongue, but deep down inside not wanting to change. So paradise has been prepared for the righteous, and Allah describes the righteous as people of good moral character. And Rasulullah said, بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have been sent to perfect good moral character. And a person cannot be of good moral character and be a righteous and be pious. This is not possible. And so in this month of Ramadan, we are acquiring righteousness through our acts of worship. But we are also acquiring patience, which is at the core of every good characteristic in Islam. Sabr. Rasulullah described the month of Ramadan as this is the month of patience. And patience has no reward except for paradise. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّ الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. The people of patience are rewarded without measure. And so this is an opportunity. If we are thinking about what is it that I want to take away from Ramadan, because we are fasting day number 19. So we have 11 more days to go. And then we are out from Ramadan, from the school of Ramadan, until next year, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if Allah allows us to live. So we know that we want to come out with more awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we also want to come out with a more refined character. And the way to do that is to hold on to this quality of patience that we are learning during the month of Ramadan. This is why Allah Azza wa Jal says that you don't eat, you don't drink, but you still continue with your day. You still have to offer your 5 daily prayers. You still fulfill the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so you are practicing restraint. Patience is not only required in the time of calamity, but it is most important in the time of calamity. So all of the praying and all of the fasting and all of the zakat and the hajj and all of the acts of righteousness is there to gear a person, to prepare a person for the tests that are going to come in our lives. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, we will most certainly test you. And so who's going to be successful in those tests? Not the people who pray a lot, not those who fast a lot, not those who give a lot of charity, not those who go to hajj a lot or go to umrah. No. Allah Azza wa Jal says, in the test, only the patient are going to be successful. These tests that we come across in our lives are means by which we can earn reward without measure. When you pray, there is a certain amount of virtues that you get. You read Quran, you get for each letter 10 hasana. You give in charity, it is multiplied by 700. All of it is measured. But patience, Allah Azza wa Jal says that if you are patient in the times of trials and calamities and difficulties, then I will reward you without measure. A moment, a standing of patience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can grant you forgiveness and grant you paradise. A decision of paradise for a moment of self-restraint and patience. And so where do we learn that? We learn it in the month of Ramadan. And so we need to be conscious of it. And we need to exercise it now whilst we can, whilst the shayateen are away. Because once the shayateen return, then it's going to be more difficult to have this patience and this discipline and this self-restraint. And so patience is required. It's time to pray, but I have a lot of things. And so to continue praying day after day at that particular time, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, it requires that you are in control of yourself. Then you have things that you are asked to stay away from, things that are prohibited, to refrain from them despite the desire to acquire them or to experience them. It requires self-restraint. And then to deal with calamities and difficulties, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, give good news to the patient ones. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ, those when a calamity befalls them. Because Allah doesn't guarantee that you are a believer and you are righteous, so you are not going to be tried and tested. Actually, the promise of Allah is, the closer you are to me, the more righteous you are, the greater your tests are going to be. Examples are many in the Quran. Ayyub alayhi salam tested with the loss of his son and eventually the loss of his eyesight. Yaqub alayhi salam. Ayyub alayhi salam lost his children, his wealth and his health and his standing in society. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who is trialed and tested the most. Ibrahim alayhi salam, thrown out by his father, placed in a fire, and then the patience required to fulfill the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he asked him to leave Hajar and Ismail in the Kaaba. So these are all examples. And we have one example of Yunus alayhi salam in the Quran, who was hasty. He invited his people to Allah, they did not accept, and he thought it's okay for him to leave. And so he left. And what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trialed him. And so patience is at the core of the Muslim character. And we are training it during the month of Ramadan. That water is there available, but I cannot drink. Food is available, I cannot eat. Why? Because Allah is aware of me. And so this patience and taqwa goes hand in hand. This is why Allah Azza wa Jal says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ, when a calamity befalls them, قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, we belong to Allah and to Him we will return. This is taqwa. This is awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I am in a calamity, I am in a difficulty, in hardship. I am aware that Allah is watching me, and I am aware that I am going to return to Allah and He's going to judge me and question me. And so I will only take the means that are permissible, and I'm going to refrain and stay away from the means that are not permissible. Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. Those will be entitled to what? The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salutations from their Lord and rahmah, mercy. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. And those are the guided ones. So all of these in relation to the people of patience, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to build this great quality and great character into our lives during this blessed month of Ramadan. أقول ما تستمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وأغننا بفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. اللهم ارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وعاف مبتلانا وخذ بأيدينا إلى كل خير واحفظنا من كل شر. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم.